Welcome to the Erica Russo Show, where we dive deep into the realms of personal development, spirituality, and the power of the mind. Join us on a transformative journey as we explore the art of manifesting the life you truly desire, all while listening to your intuition. Join host Erica Russo, intuitive life and business mentor and best-selling author each week, as we'll embark on a quest to uncover the secrets of manifesting abundance, nurturing a resilient mindset, and tapping into the spiritual dimensions that shape our reality. Each episode will bring you insightful discussions, practical techniques, and inspiring stories from experts and seekers alike. Whether you're seeking clarity in your spiritual journey, striving to shift your mindset, or eager to unlock your full potential, this podcast is your guiding light.
Well, hello, beautiful souls. Welcome to the Erica Russo Show. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. I am beyond excited that the universe led you here today. And if you are an OG and you continue to come back, you continue to press play, you continue to lean into your intuition and trust that you are divinely guided and supported at all times, even when it might be hard to believe it. I love you. Thank you so much for your continued support. Thank you so much for pressing play. I love doing this podcast and I love having this space where I can have conversations with like-minded people and I can just share what wants to come through. If this podcast is helping you, if it's giving you those aha moments, if it's letting you see life in a different perspective, I would be eternally grateful if you can head on over to iTunes or Spotify and leave a review. Those reviews allow me to get this podcast to the ears that need to hear it. And now, more than ever, I think that we can all agree this world is a fucking dumpster fire. And conversations like these, as well as inspiration, motivation, teaching, whatever goes on this podcast, is definitely helping a little, I hope. Before you go ahead and click submit to that review, make sure you send a screenshot to me at hello@ericarusso.co, no M, and I would love to send you a free gift for taking that time out and supporting this podcast. So, now that that is all said and done, I am very excited to share with you the interview of today's podcast. I connected with a beautiful healer. Her name is Bianca, and she goes by Divine Soul Alchemist on Instagram as well as TikTok. And we just had a great conversation. We had a conversation about her lineage. We had a conversation about how she used to very much be connected to spirit and how she was channeling at very young ages and how she has recently kind of opened herself back up to being a bridge for the spirit world and sharing inspiration and channeled messages. It was a really great conversation and I'm so excited to be sharing it with you today. But before we dive into that, I want to let you guys know that I have a lot of live upcoming events coming in the month of May. I will be hosting a trans mediumship workshop on May 11th from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This is a beautiful experience. I'm so excited to be hosting a workshop like this. This is essentially where we take our connection to spirit deeper. I will also be doing some trans healing as well as a trans mediumship demonstration within this workshop. If you are interested, I will leave the information down below so you can reserve your spot. I am also going to be teaching 3 classes in the month of May. The first one will be on May 14th, and this is energy and home protection. I'm going to be sharing so much shit in this particular class when it comes to protecting your energy as well as your home. If you are interested in joining, I will, again, all the information will be down below. I will also be teaching a breathwork class. If you've been listening for a while, you know that I am an avid fan and forever in love with the somatic practice of breathwork. And I'm so excited to be sharing this with you guys. Breathwork has been such a game changer for me, just for my overall mental health as well as my own personal healing journey. That's going to be on May 15th. You can look up more information below. And then the last class that I will be teaching next month is understanding spirit attachments. This class was one that I know has to happen. But this was kind of a request from spirit. So this is going to be a very interesting class, and this is one that really needs to happen at this point in time, given the current energetic circumstances where, I spoke about the current energetic purge. So, knowing what to look for with attachments, as well as how to get rid of them, how to release them, that's going to be within that class. If you're interested in joining that, again, dive on down to the show notes and all the links will be there for you. I hope that you guys enjoy today's episode. Be sure to follow Bianca on Instagram. Her handle will be in the show notes below. Thank you again, and I will see you around the internet. Okay, beautiful souls. I am so excited for this week's guest. We have Bianca Rosales here. She is a New Earth guide and soul mentor, and I had the pleasure of connecting with her and being on her podcast. And I wanted to talk today about her personal journey, her spiritual journey, and specifically light language, because we were having a conversation before I pressed record where we're like, a lot of people are being activated right now, like a lot.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
she's one of them. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to ask you some questions. Bianca, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Erica. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm like super excited for this.
Yes, so am I. So am I. So tell me, how did you get to be here? What does your spiritual journey look like?
Yeah, so I was always sensitive growing up. I actually my family grew up, taught me, I was part of a religion called Santeria, which is an Afro-Cuban religion where we basically worship African deities, and it's a very spiritual religion. And so growing up, I seen a lot of people channeling during seances, so I was very already aware to that space. Um, and there were also times in those seances where light language was spoken, and I didn't even know what it was. They just called it tongue. They just called
Mm.
it tongue. So, um, so that kind of was there growing up. I kind of stepped away from that after experiencing a little bit of trauma within my family. And after I decided to leave and move out and try to experience life on my own, um, then things started happening like consistently. Like I would I would have doors close on me and I didn't understand why. I kept having toxic cycles that kept repeating and I just wasn't understanding why. And so one day, my spirit team, they basically kind of like say they basically sat me down and had like a really hard conversation with me, and they said like, this is not the path that you were meant to lead. Like like you're walking down the wrong path, and you asked of us to put you on the right path when you were straying too far, and you're straying way too far. Okay, so let's get you back on track. And what did that mean for me in the beginning? It meant for me to have to face a lot of trauma growing up, especially when it came to spirituality and talking to my guides, because growing up it was used as a way for emotional manipulation within my home. So I didn't trust it so much growing up. And I was also told, because I was channeling during these sessions as a 9, 10 year old, I was channeling things that I didn't know what was coming out of me, but it was clearly impacting the person that I was saying it to. But when I would go home, I was told you have like you can't do that anymore. Like you can't do that. People are going to take advantage of you. Like you can't do that. So I was always told to quiet down. So not only was I told to like now keep silent, but I also didn't trust that connection because I was like, well, if I do something that they don't like, they're going to punish me and I don't want that, you know? So with that being said, you know, it took a lot of time for me to open myself up to understanding why is why I was having those experiences. And eventually it came to the point where I realized that it was all on purpose. Like this whole entire experience was specifically so that I could come back to myself and then be able to teach others how to understand that the past lessons, the pain, the hurt, the suffering, the trauma is your conduit for your greatest power. It is literally what you are able to transmute into unconditional love and then be able to share that back with the world. But, you know, it took a long time. So, with that being said, I started working even deeper with my spirit team. And little by little, you know, using, I call it like earthly modalities, like the breath work, the EFT tapping, like all of these earthly tools that we have allowed me to open myself up more and more and allowed me to go even deeper. The more deeper I went, the more clear the messages and their guidance became. And so you know, and then it started to cross a point where I started to hear some type of, I called it frequency sounds at first, but I didn't connect it to the same tongue language that was spoken when I was a child. I wasn't connecting it. So I was going through, I had met somebody, her name is Mariko Fedrick, and she was a light language activator. And at the time, she was just offering like a free workshop. And within that workshop, she basically said, hey, can I talk to you? And she reached out to me. And so we had a session where she basically said, you have a light language. And when she said that, it was like something that it was almost like a boof, like yes, like a big yes, like inside of me, like yes, you do. And though I was healing with my hands and I was doing different modalities, this part was the one that was absolutely needed because for so long my throat chakra was blocked, and so that's why I couldn't express myself in different ways. And you know, I didn't understand that that was a key element to my practice, to my mission, right? And so my guides were like, go, you have to activate it, you are ready to open it now. And this happened back in January of this year. And in the session, like it just started coming out of me, you know, and I was like, whoa. And at first I'm like, am I making this up? I even asked her, like, am I making this up? She was like, no, you literally cannot make that up. It's coming out of you, right? And so, you know, after a while of now integrating myself and, you know, working directly with my guides in them, now I'm starting to understand that light language truly is just the primordial language of the soul. It's the language of frequency, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you can heal with it, you can activate with it, you can clear energetic bodies or you can reset energetic signatures. Is basically the vocal toning of frequency. So
Yes.
yeah.
I love that. And I love how you shared your own personal healing journey because quite literally, I don't care what anybody says, the spiritual journey is the healing journey. It
Oh
looks
yeah,
different. Yeah,
absolutely.
it looks different for everybody. But I think too, a lot of people, especially people who are doing energy work, a lot of people who are doing psychic work, channeling, and everything along those lines. And nobody really wants to hear this, but I have to say it because I see it as a constant problem within the spiritual reading or energy activator sort of community. You got to heal your own shit first.
Oh yeah.
You got to heal your own shit.
I have to
Like you
say
said,
something about that.
yeah, you have to work through your own blockages because quite literally, trauma is energy stored within your system. It's a blockage point. So if you're not able to process it, like you said, through your earthly modalities, somatic healing, breath work, therapy, coaching, whatever the case, whatever works for you, do you really think that your guides are going to give you something that you're not ready for? Something that your energetic capacity cannot handle at that time. And you could see even with Bianca's story where she said, like, I had to heal my shit first. And then all of a sudden, like, this happened. And then I found myself in this person's path. And, because I did this work, my guides were like, now it's time for you to get activated. And nobody wants to hear that, though. You know what I mean? Nobody wants to hear it. If you want to progress as a soul or as a spiritual reader, it's not going to happen overnight.
Absolutely. And that's so true. And to be to the point to what you said, that, I was not able to help others if I didn't heal myself. And that was the biggest thing. Like when I had my first spiritual awakening, and I know that a lot of listeners could relate to this if they've gone through it. But in your first spiritual awakening, when you first wake up and you're like, it's so intense and so profound that you just think like, okay, like I am super spiritual, like I understand myself. And that's just the first one. And so you have this idea, right? And then I'm like, I'm meant for something bigger, even though I knew that as a child. Like I knew I was meant to heal. I knew that I had a mission on earth. I knew that.
Yeah.
But in that first spiritual awakening, it's literally just the beginning. It's just the beginning of your actual healing journey, right? And then it just continues and continues and continues, and all it does is just continues to uncover more and more and more layers. But the more layers that you uncover, the more you expand. The more you expand, the more, like you said, you have the capacity to hold space for others. If I'm contracted like this, though I'm still healing, but I'm contracted, I can only hold space for this much, which is only for me. The more that I expand, the more that I'm able to clear those channels, the more that I'm able to release that trauma, release those fears, heal my ancestral lineage. That was huge for me, because that was me carrying trauma from lifetimes that me as a soul took on and said, I'm going to go ahead and do this in this specific timeline, because we got shit to do. Like we got stuff to do here, right? And so, having to heal that, the more I expanded, the more then I realized, because I was like, oh, let me just, I want to coach and I want to lead and I want to heal. But things weren't popping up for me to be able to do that. But the more that I healed and the more that I worked through those shadows, the more opportunities came up for me to either help somebody or that I could find more help with. Does that make sense? So yeah, it's definitely super important to heal yourself first. And it's so hard, honestly. I think it's so hard because you know, we go through a lot of shit. Like we honestly are put through so much growing up as a teenager and even as a young adult. It's like, oh, it's a lot to deal. It's a lot to face. And what's even worse is that when you're not willing to take responsibility, because it's so much easier to, blame the world, blame your parents, blame the bully in school, blame this, blame that. It's easier to put the blame on everybody else. It's so hard for your ego to say, but we chose this experience and we chose this. We need to do this. We needed to go through this. You might not understand this now, right? And that's when the ego's like, I don't like this, right?
Yeah.
And that's why it's so hard. So yeah, get that.
Yeah. I think too, I love how you said, like, when you first wake up, it's like, oh, I'm ready. I want to do this. I want to do that. I'm like, I'm so connected to my higher self. And it's cute because I remember myself being like that. You know, first you go through the dark night of the soul and you're feeling it and you're looking around like what, you know, like everything is the Matrix, right? And you're like, I don't know who to trust anymore. I don't want to listen to the news. I don't want to do this. You feel very disconnected, very lonely. And then you go into the next phase of the awakening where it's like you accept it and then you start opening up. You start seeing things differently and you begin, you know, getting all excited and into spirituality and you're buying all the crystals and the oracle cards and everything like that. And then little do you know, like, just so everybody knows, I've had about 3 dark nights of the soul experiences. You know what I mean? Like,
Me too.
yeah, like it's the first one, you know, everyone, you go through that, but this evolution that you are on is until the day you die. And then it's going to start all over again in your next life. So, you know, just stick around. It's a long flight. It's a long flight. And, you know, just because you're going through one spiritual awakening, I'm telling you right now, in a year, 2 years, 3 years, when you heal a lot of that trauma and when you let go of that baggage, the next layer is going to be uncovered and it's going to feel like you're doing it all over again. And that's okay. But if there's anything that I've learned is stay humble. Stay very humble because we don't know shit. We really, really don't.
Yes.
And I think too, when it comes to going to a healer, when it comes to working with a soul guide, with a spiritual mentor, I think a lot of people go into it with the mindset of, this is my mentor. This is the person that's going to guide me. And unfortunately, that is a sign of codependency. Your guides, your healers, your readers, your coaches, they're only there to open the door for you and to create space for you to do the healing work yourself. Period. Healers are simply people that hold the vibration of healed, of the vibration in which you want to get to, and they hold space for you in order for you to get to that level. And I think that people need to stop with unrealistic expectations when it comes to healing. You know what I mean? Did you ever expect that you were
Absolutely.
going to be able to do light language?
No,
No.
absolutely not. I mean, that's the thing. Like, I would hear it,
Yeah.
but I wouldn't connect it that it was mine, and I wouldn't connect that it was that language that I heard as a child. I didn't connect it at
No.
first. So yeah, but yeah, there was no way. There was no way.
Yeah, for sure. You know, so there's a lot of people, and I don't know if I said this before, but I had a post last month essentially go viral where I work with the Light Council. I am a channel for the Light Council. They tell me what to share and I share it. And I did a post where essentially I said between March 13th and July 13th, these are the dates that they gave me. This is what's happening energetically. I'm not talking at the astrology level, I'm talking at the grounded energetic level. And they essentially said that it's a huge purge. And it's funny because I've heard other psychics that I do trust. Yeah.
Got goosebumps because they're
Goosebumps.
100% right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So another psychic that I trust, he was saying that there is a huge wave coming between June and July that's going to wake up another surge of people. And I'm like, this coincides with what I'm getting because they said July 13th. But the biggest thing was expect people to get activated with light language, with energy healing, with people, more psychic surgeons are going to start popping up. And quite literally, some people are not going to know what the hell is going on with them.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yep.
you know?
Yep.
And I think it's just right now, it's very much a space for healers, for channels, for intuitives to just wait. Just wait.
So funny that you say that, because for the last, I would say, month and a half, it's been a struggle for me because I have felt almost guilty for not having enough downloads to like to act on or to push on. And I could hear one of my main guys just constantly telling me this is a waiting period. Like, I don't remember, I think it's the Four of Swords in tarot. Like, it is the time for you to just like, this is your waiting period. Like, you are building up strength, you're building up. And I sensed that, but I knew that it was just me. So I would look around and a lot of people are like, I'm in my wintering phase still, like I'm still, you know, and it's that I had to work through that because I'm like, you know what? It is time to wait. And I also got the intuitive hit that there is a purge coming. And in that time, a lot of souls are going to need support. Support is what I'd like to say. And during that time, a massive amount of energy is going to be required from those who are already awakened and in tune with what's happening. And we need all the strength and all the energy that's available to us, because we need to do it at cup full. We cannot do it at half full. We cannot do it at empty. We got to be at full. So this waiting period is massively important. It's so important.
Right. Exactly. I know that like a lot of people are a little frustrated when it comes to this void, because it is a void. You know what I mean? We're sitting here like twiddling our thumbs, being like, we're ready to like help people. But I do believe, I very much believe that there's going to be a huge surge this summer and people seeking those who are already awakened, whether it's for a reading, an activation of their own, or something along those lines. And like you said, it can get frustrating. I know I have a lot of intuitives that listen to this podcast, so I love that we're having this conversation right now. But, you know, we signed up for this.
That's right. This is part of the human experience. We're still
Yeah.
supposed to feel all of those emotions, the frustration, the impatience, all of these emotions. We're meant to feel them, and it's totally okay. It's about feeling them and not ignoring them, because I think that when we ignore them, we kind of push them down, and then that's when you start building up on those layers. So, just feel the frustration. And then my favorite part, like my favorite modality to release these, is through journaling, so that I can see. I'll like ask myself questions. Like, I call it self-therapy. So I'll ask myself questions like, why am I so frustrated right now? And then I'll answer that question, and then based on my response, I'll ask myself another question based on that response, until I get to I call it the root
Root.
cause of my
Yep.
frustration or my emotion. And 9 out of 10 times I start cracking up. I
Mhm.
swear, I just start cracking up. I'm like, oh, Bianca, it's not that big of a deal. Everything's
Yeah.
exactly how it's supposed to be right now.
Yeah.
It's
I
okay.
love that you said that, because that's literally what I do. When I am out of alignment and when I'm in that frustration, I literally have to coach myself out of it. And I think that if people just learned to coach themselves out of things, my God, how much lighter the energy around this world would be. Because, like you said, there's a reason for the frustration. And a lot of times, it it's something that is beyond my control. It's something, suffering is optional. Uh, you know, call me the bad guy. I don't really care. Suffering really truly is a man-made experience. And where there is suffering, there is attachment. And when you are able to become aware of that and to just say, why am I frustrated right now? Oh, because it's not working out the way it's that I intended it to work out, you know? Okay. That just shows that you're attached to the solution. So if you are able to detach from the solution, then, or the outcome, I should say, the problem no longer exists. That's really it,
Agreed.
you know?
Agreed.
but I love that you coach yourself because honestly,
Oh yeah,
that's all
all
it
the time.
takes, you know? Yeah. Sometimes 10 times a day, you know?
And you know what? Why too? Like you, and just going back to what you were saying earlier about not mismanaging clients' expectations and people who look up to those who can provide them guidance. There, when you're seeking an answer from outside of you, um, your soul cannot resonate with it in the same way because your soul already knows the answer. Right. So when you ask yourself these questions, and that's what mentors and guides are here for, they're here to provide the questions, provide the path for insight so that you can do that for yourself. Right. And that's why I love self coaching. And I learned that so much because I would always be looking outside of myself during that process. I was always like, please tell me what's going on please tell me what's going on in my life right now. Please tell me that that my business is going to grow. Like please tell me how I can grow this into whatever it is. I would always look outside of myself. When I would just tune in and ask myself, my guides will always show up. My guides and my higher self will always show up and give me the answer that I need, and it would always resonate and feel good to me. It would just be enough. It would be enough. So yeah, self-coaching, self-therapy, highly recommend.
And if you don't want to do that, I highly recommend breath work.
Yes,
Yes.
exactly. Yes, at least
Yes.
move it through the body. You don't have to say
Yes.
anything. You don't have to think about it. Just move all of that through, in and out, all through the body. Absolutely.
Mm.
Absolutely. Because then everything becomes clear.
Yes. Exactly. At the end of the day, if there's anything that I've learned from over 6 years of experience with working with energy, reading energy, it's that everything is energy. Every emotion, every thought, everything, everything that we experience at the atomic level is a form of energy. And when we suppress emotion, when we don't process through thoughts correctly, it gets stuck. And you don't necessarily have to think your way out of something. And that's something I'm an Aquarius sun and a Libra moon. I got a lot of air in me. I think a lot. And that's something that I've come on my spiritual journey to understand is like you don't have to think your way out of everything. It's so invigorating. You know what I mean?
That is
Especially
so
coming
true.
from, especially with an air mind where you don't have to think you don't. You really don't. You don't have to think or, process it, but don't overthink it. But you
Yeah, but
do need to
processing can
release it.
happen processing can happen in different ways. It doesn't have to be through just thought.
Hmm.
Doesn't have to be through just thought. Yeah,
For
absolutely.
me, it's movement, like shamanic shaking.
Ooh, wow. You like
Yeah.
that?
Oh my God. I started doing it a couple years ago, and it's literally like I'll just put on like shamanic drums, like really tribal music, and for 3 minutes you just shake the shit out of you, and you feel so much better.
So much better. Yes, that's
Yeah.
actually what I learned. Like that's what we would do growing up in these meetings and seances. A lot of shamanic shaking dances, stuff like that, that would help flow the energy through so that
Hmm.
we could receive. That was, yeah, I love
I love
that.
that. I love that. So, talk to me about seances and your experience with them, because I would love to learn from someone who came from essentially it's a closed practice, right, Santeria?
Yes.
How was it like for you growing up and experiencing seances?
Okay, so my first experience with the seance, I was about 8 years old. And I remember clearly that it was like a group of people who were also highly intuitive, and there was a high priest and a high priestess in the seance, and they always would start out with a prayer, and then they would start with the music. And the music would always start to activate something within me. My body would start shaking uncontrollably. I would feel hotness coming from the back of my neck, which later on I realized it was Archangel Michael, but I felt hotness coming from the back of my neck, and people would actually start to trance, like the spirit wouldn't, it's not it's not possessing, but I guess some people would consider it. But some people would download these spirits within them. And so their consciousness would kind of move into a back seat, and and the one who would be speaking is the actual spirit guide itself. Um, so as a little kid, I'm not gonna lie, at first I wasn't understanding what was going on, but I wasn't afraid. That was the thing. That's why I say that I came in with this, because I wasn't afraid. My sister was, she was terrified. She never came again. But I came in with this, and I knew that this was part of something. It was a part of a process. And so a seance technically is basically just a meeting with a high priest and a high priestess. Well, within the practice that we did. And they basically trans channel certain higher guides to answer a question or to do a specific healing for somebody who would be in the center of the meeting. And so everybody else will either provide support, or they would also chime in if they would also receive information. So it was like it was like a space where different teams of guides came together to provide support, healing, guidance to 1, 2, 3 individuals at one time during that period, or during that moment that we were all together. So that's what that was.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah, it was always powerful. I always look, and I still feel the heat. I'm feeling the heat right now. So it was always powerful. It was always very it was very profound for me to leave, because I would always go home and have very vivid dreams. Now, if you ask me now what they were, I don't remember, but I remember having very vivid dreams, and I would wake up the next day feeling so refreshed and so light. Most likely I was just visiting my soul family there.
Yeah.
But yeah, and we would do this every Saturday evening. And yeah, it was a very powerful and transformative experience. Yeah, for sure.
So, like, how young were you when you started attending the seances?
I started attending at 8 years old, and I started channeling myself when I was 9. I was the youngest channeler there. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh
And
my
like I
God.
said, my first time channeling, and I remember it very vividly, because I actually I was very conscious. I was a conscious channel, which confused a lot of them, because they all had to trans channel. The spirit had to really like go through them. I didn't have that. I would just hear it, or I would just know it and speak it. And I remember talking to this one guy, and I could say it now, but I was telling him like, yeah, you had a father who had a heart attack, but he didn't really have a heart attack. It was staged. And I was telling him all of these things that was happening. And mind you, I'm 9 years old. I have no idea what's coming out of me, but I'm looking at his face, and I know what I'm saying. And the guy starts breaking down. He starts going to the ground, and so my mother, I guess, because it was her first time seeing me do something like that, she was a little scared. So she pulled me back, and she cut my channel in that moment. And I remember one of the high priests says, he comes to me privately, actually. He didn't even have my mom around. He comes to me privately and says, you know, don't ever let anybody shut that down. Okay, because that's very important what you have. And that did stick with me. The next day, my mother, she had asked me, she's like, do you remember anything that happened? Like, were you conscious? Like, were you aware? And out of fear, and I don't know why I said, no, I don't remember anything. But I did. I remembered everything. But I told her that I didn't. And she said, I don't want you doing that anymore. If you feel something, close yourself, cut yourself off, because you're going to be taken advantage of. And that was obviously, that was an experience I needed to have so that I can come back to my guides and trust them on a deeper level. But that right there was like, why do I have to cut myself off? It was very easy for me to do it at that time. Right. But I guess her fear was that she didn't want me in that community because I was the youngest one ever that they have seen in that community to be able to do this. Right. And so I guess she didn't want them to take advantage of me, which is completely understandable. I think it was also detrimental to my spiritual development at that age, because my guides were saying, they basically were saying you were definitely ready, but this needed to happen as well. So
Yeah. I think too, when that happens, because we're so open when we're children, right? I mean, the invisible friends, how easily that happened for you. I think that, I mean, intuitively, what I'm picking up with that is you needed to experience that for the simple fact that shutting gifts down and religious trauma, fear, is a very, very real thing. It's a bad problem. It's a big problem, specifically with those that are waking up. And
yep.
I think you just had to experience it yourself,
Yep, absolutely.
you know?
Absolutely. Yeah, I don't think I would have been able to, there was actually a friend who's actually going through this right now personally, and she kind of went through something very similar. And I think the biggest part was me being able to express the trauma that came out of that. And that's why you need to experience certain things. Why certain things happen to you as an adolescent, as a child, as a teenager is literally all of it is on purpose. Like none of it is by accident. None of them is, and it's not on purpose to punish you. It's not on purpose to whatever, right? It's literally on purpose so that you can give back what you've learned from it, because other people are going to need that support. Yeah, especially during this time. So yeah, I agree with
Yeah.
you.
It's so much, we learn very little from the books. We learn very little from the podcasts or from the YouTube videos and everything like that. We can become inspired by it. I really, we can absolutely get ideas from it and open our consciousness up a little bit more. But at the end of the day, in order to be a master at something, in order to really, truly, at the DNA level, understand something, we have to experience it. We have to work through the emotions that are associated with it, you know? And like I said, you being the soul mentor that you are now, the new earth guide that you know you're meant to be, that's really the only reason why that happened, because there's so much fear associated with this, especially with channeling. Nobody
Mhm.
wants to get a bad spirit. Nobody knows if they're doing it right or if it's their imagination or, something along those lines. And, especially coming from your background, which I find is fascinating because you know, your seances essentially sound a lot like my trans mediumship workshops, where it's essentially a powerful, sacred, protected container where spirit
Exactly.
can work through us.
Yes, exactly. You said it
Yeah.
perfectly.
I mean, that's really what it is. And I think that goes for all closed practices. And again, I've never been part of a closed practice, but I have done, I guess you can call them a seance. I just call them workshops or
Yeah,
like a
yeah.
spiritual retreat. But I think too, another thing that I've really learned on my own personal journey is why closed practices exist. A lot of people, especially when it comes to the witchcraft part of it,
Hmm.
people don't get it, man. People don't get it. But if you respect spirit, if you respect your deities, your ancestors, and you show them just how sacred you see the connection and see the divinity that comes through those containers, it's going to be more powerful. Simple as
Yep.
that. And I think, and that's another thing, dude, being a medium, being a channel, it is a 3 way thing. I always say this when it comes to readings. You're the tube, the channel is the tube, but it's spirit incarnate, spirit discarnate, and you are the tube that connects everybody together. If one piece of that triangle is not working out or falling, it's not going to be as powerful as it could be.
Yep.
You know?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
So that's another thing that we have to also recognize when it comes to spiritual readers is that it is like it's like a cocktail, I like to call it. You know what I mean? It's not just one ingredient, because if you're going into a reading and perhaps you go into someone who doesn't believe in it, they have, their arms crossed and they're like, prove it to me. That's already one side of that triangle that is not there.
Exactly.
So don't feel bad if the reading or the experience isn't what it's meant to be. I
Mm-hmm.
find that the best readings I do is honestly with another intuitive person because they're open. So the triangle, the container is very much healthy and vibrant,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
the energies cannot just flow through me, but flow through the other channel,
Yes.
you know?
Yes.
So, what is, I always like to say, I always like to wrap up the conversations with this question. If
Okay.
there is someone that is listening to this episode right now and they are just starting their healing journey, or maybe perhaps they know that they're ready to step onto that spiritual path, what are the three pieces of advice that you would give them?
Okay. The first piece of advice that I would say is one, to be patient with the process. Okay. It's going to be so important because healing takes time. And depending on what needs to be healed, especially from the line of work that I do, which is ancestral healing, could be lifetimes ago. It's gonna take time. It's gonna take time to transmute, to process, and to move on forth. So just be patient with the process. That's number one. Number two, I'd say trust yourself. Trust that whatever is coming into your path, whether it's an intuitive nudge, whether it's a consistent sign, whether it's a specific person, trust yourself enough to say, I can say yes to this and no to this. And trust that whatever decision that you make, it's already destined to be the best decision for you. It's already for your highest good. So never to feel like you're going to make a mistake, because there's no such things as mistakes. That's number one. There's no such things as mistakes, whatever. But that whatever decision that you are going to make is already for your highest good, because it's going to lead you down a path that's going to take you down another path. And if you feel like it's a wrong path, that's okay. There's just another path ahead to show you that you're still right on track. So you're always right on track, no matter what. You're always right on track. So trust yourself through this process. Okay. So be patient, trust yourself. And I will say, don't be afraid to ask for support. We're not here to give you the answers. We're not here to heal you, because that's what I say, even as a healer, like, we're not here to heal you. We're here to support you when you may feel like something isn't clear. We're going to help clear that up. We're just here to help and guide, right? So don't be afraid to ask for help, because you're not in this alone. Okay. There is a soul out there that promised you that during this time in your life, they were going to be available for you. They were going to be there for you at this time. So trust that. And also trust yourself that that soul is going to come into your life. Okay. So don't be afraid to ask for support. So be patient during this process. It's a healing journey. It's a marathon, not even a marathon. It's a whole lifetime type of thing. And trust yourself, trust your intuition. Really, we all have the capability. All of us has all of our clear senses. We all have them, right? So trust yourself that when you feel something, when you sense something, when you hear something, trust that unconditionally because it's yours. Okay. And then, like I said, last but not least, just don't be afraid to seek support. Don't be afraid to ask. Even if it's just asking the universe or asking your guides, like, please show me this, please bring me more clarity. Ask, and you should always receive. But you cannot be given something that you're not willing to receive it. So ask. And the ask is the intention to receive. So those are my 3 tips.
I love that. Guys, be sure to follow Bianca on Instagram. Thank you so much for coming on. That was amazing.
Thank you so much for having me on. This was so much fun.
Yes, thanks, guys.